You're listening to a guy that penned a letter of recommendation for O.J. Simpson to hand to St. Peter. It's Tim Graham and Friends.
CTBK gives executives and owners of mid-market businesses unparalleled confidence and clarity so you can focus on strategic objectives and organizational success. Their multidisciplinary advisors, accountants, and team members have a wealth of experience and are all available and responsive to each client to ensure the most effective advice, actions, and outcomes no matter the situation or complexity level. That experience base and one-team approach, combined with integrated and efficient way of operating, enable them to be truly proactive partners, doing the best thing for their client every time. Visit ctbk.com or call 716-630-2400 to learn how CTBK can work for you.
And now, back to the man who puts the heart in shart. It's Tim Graham and Friends.
Welcome to another edition of Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK CPAs and Business Consultants. I'm Tim Graham of The Athletic, here with Jonah Bronstein of Bronstein Sports Plus. And I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. We have a perfect opportunity here to talk Florida Panthers hockey with one of my all-time favorite people, George Richards of Florida Hockey Now and NHL.com. You've also read his work over the years at the Miami Herald, the Columbus Dispatch, and the Athletic. He has been the preeminent Panthers insider for decades. And with the Panthers about to play the Edmonton Oilers for the Stanley Cup, let's have Georgie on to talk. And he's bilingual, I should say. He's bilingual in that he can talk hockey, and I'm sure we're going to have some good Bills-Dolphins discussion, perhaps. George, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Timmy. How are you, brother?
I'm doing all right. George is coming to us from Fort Lauderdale, primed and ready to go. George, I guess I'll just ask your thoughts on this Panthers team, and not a surprise that they're in the Cup final.
Yeah,
they're that good,
right?
But have there been any surprises along the way for you during this postseason?
I think just the ease almost of which the Panthers have been able to move out. I mean, I think the biggest test for Florida, going into the playoffs was, the Tampa Bay thing, right? I mean, this is a team that couldn't get past Tampa Bay. The state of Florida, Tampa and Miami are completely different worlds, but people look at, the state of Florida, they talk about hockey, and it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Florida Panthers had to get past Tampa Bay. They do so in 5 games. Then they get a rematch with Boston, the revenge that Boston wanted. They win that one in 6. And then here comes the President's Trophy winning New York Rangers, and Florida snuffs them out too. I mean, Florida's defensive play has been awesome. I think every series that we've watched with Florida, Tampa, Boston, New York, you talk about, okay, special teams. Florida's going to get burnt on special teams. Florida's going to get burnt by these X, Y, and Z top scorers. It hasn't happened. Florida's been able to keep the best players on all 3 of those teams pretty much in check, if not completely silent and off the score sheet. And I think that's the thing that's been surprising to me is you look at going into a series, you're like, oh, this guy's going to give Florida problems. This guy, and they haven't. And Florida's done a real good job of shutting down the best players on the 3 teams they've played thus far. This will be a much bigger test, obviously, with Edmonton and that gang of guys they got.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I guess I'll leave it as vague as that, but Connor McDavid, the great thing
Hyman, I mean, their top 6 is woof. That's a
Right.
tough top six, right?
And
But
obviously diehard hockey fans, which there are a ton of in Western New York, and a lot of our listeners know their hockey. But I think, though, that it, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, you do catch Connor McDavid here and there throughout the course of a regular season. But when you get to see him on an other nightly basis in the postseason is when you really get mesmerized by him. I mean, you see him once or twice. Yeah, I get it. I mean, maybe you have the hockey package, but are you staying up that late with the
right.
time zone difference? And are you, but when you get this steady diet of Connor McDavid, you really begin to appreciate, or you get the deep appreciation for what he can do. What are the Panthers' thoughts heading into this series about? And of course, you can't leave out Draisaitl. Like you mentioned the guys, but
Right.
McDavid
But
obviously is
yeah,
is front and center.
there's no doubt about it. McDavid is one of the best players we've ever seen, right? I mean, he's one of the top. He's on that list. You've watched hockey, covered hockey for so long. He's as good as we've ever seen. I mean, Connor McDavid is legit. Greg Cody notwithstanding, right? I mean, he is not McOverrated or whatever Greg wrote, for Canadian clicks. Well, we don't need to get into that. Greg's never seen him.
Greg knows what he's doing.
He
From a business standpoint. He knew what he said. He knew what he was doing.
No doubt about that. Anywho, it's going to be tough for Florida, right? Because Florida, as good as they are defensively, this team, you can't just key in on one guy. You've got, Draisaitl. Who do you put? Okay, so you put Barkov and you put Ekblad and Forsling, on the McDavid line. Well, that leaves Draisaitl. Florida's going to probably counter with Anton Lundell and what the third line with Luostarinen and Evan Rodriguez. But they can hurt you in so many ways. But the key is McDavid. Everything runs through him. And, it's going to be tough because you're now looking at – you're not just playing Connor – like the Panthers are used to. You're used to playing Connor McDavid on a Tuesday night, and then we got Calgary tomorrow. Or, Edmonton's coming in on a back-to-back. They're playing Tampa. They're gone. They're in. They're gone. You don't see them again. Now you've got to focus on these guys for what you hope is going to be a 7-game series. It's going to be tough, but Florida's got the defensive play. Florida and Winnipeg tied for the fewest goals allowed in the NHL this season, and Florida has done a great job of that in the playoffs as well. So this is a team that's built around defense but can score. We'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting, especially with all the travel and stuff. See how that affects things. But yeah, I mean, the key to the series is how do you slow that down?
Where do you think Stuart Skinner ranks among the goaltenders that the Panthers have faced so far?
Fourth, right? I mean, you're not going to put him above Vasilevsky. You're not going to put him above Swayman. You're not going to put him above, especially not above Shesterkin, because Shesterkin is the only reason that series against the Rangers went 6. Florida could have easily swept that series if it wasn't for Shesterkin. He was absolutely phenomenal, and Swayman was terrific in round 2, and that Vasilevsky was Vasilevsky in the first series. So, but he still, listen, he gets benched right in the Vancouver series. He comes back. He wins 2 elimination games against the Canucks. And I think going into the Western Conference Final, a lot of us thought that Dallas might be the best team in the NHL, still standing. And he's able to get, 3 straight wins against them after going down 2-0. So Skinner is definitely on the upswing. We've seen goalies get hot. He's certainly getting hot at the perfect time for Edmonton. But when you put it like that, you're still saying, who do you put him above? You can't put him above any of the 3 that Florida's faced. That doesn't mean he's not going to be very, very good against the Panthers.
Yeah, you don't get this far without good goaltending.
Right.
Has it been sublime? No, but I think if you're looking at the matchup and you want to compare vulnerabilities, I would say that Florida has the edge in the crease.
Yeah, Sergei Bobrovsky, really, he's played every game for Florida, but he hasn't had a major league workload. This isn't last year where Florida jumped on Bobrovsky's back against Toronto and Toronto and Carolina. That 4 overtime game in Carolina last year where Bobrovsky, I think, had to make 63, 64 saves, something in that neighborhood. He hasn't had to do anything of that sort in this one. Florida's been terrific defensively. They've completely shut down the teams that they've been facing. I mean, Tampa Bay, we thought this was an anomaly. Tampa Bay, there were times where Tampa Bay would go 10, 11, 12 minutes without a shot on goal. Then Florida did it to Boston time and again. Then they did it to the New York Rangers time and again. There was a game against the Rangers where the New York Rangers went 14 minutes without a shot attempt. Florida's defense is legit good and obviously going to be put to the test. But, Bobrovsky has made phenomenal big saves when he's had to, but he hasn't had to carry it.
How much do you think Florida's experience playing in the Stanley Cup Finals last year might help them out? Do you agree with Chris Knobloch on his analogy?
I don't, because the Buffalo Bills played some teams that had some Super Bowl experience, didn't they? I mean, Dallas twice, whatever. But that said, I think it does help the Panthers because they know what's coming. They know the scrutiny. They know how to handle the media day stuff. Florida last year had 10 days off between games and then had to go to Vegas for all of this. This year, they've got a week and they're home. They've known who they're going to play since Monday. I think that's a big help as opposed to last year. And this team is focused. This team knows what it's like to get to the top of the mountain and fall short. They saw the Vegas Golden Knights celebrate with the cup 50 feet in front of them, right? They had to spend the night in Las Vegas as the whole city erupted and then go to the airport with all this, every casino lit up, Stanley Cup champs. They had to live with that. That was burned into their memory. That's experience that helps them, I think.
Jonah mentioned Chris Knobloch's Buffalo Bills shot that he mentioned earlier in the week, in which he was asked about playoff experience and what kind of value it has. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said we didn't hear much about that with the Buffalo Bills, or what do the Buffalo Bills think about that? Jonah and I last night broke bread with Daryl Talley. Coincidentally, he just happened to walk into the hotel we were the hotel restaurant we were at. And here comes Daryl Talley, strangely enough. He joined us, and I probably should have asked him about that. But I certainly do remember that was a topic. I mean,
sure.
I don't know where Chris Knobloch's getting this, but it's not like that was a story every time the Bills went back. Well, maybe they've learned some things, or maybe some of the important things they never did learn, like obeying a curfew, might have helped them out on one of those Super Bowls, but that just wasn't in their DNA. So the Edmonton Oilers are making sure that they are not going to be the adopted team of Western New York, although that would have been tough to do anyway, because some likable players, former Sabres, doing very well with the Florida Panthers, including this season's captain, strangely enough. What is your interaction with Kyle Okposo been, George, and his, it's strange to me. I think there's a discussion to be had, which we're about to do, I hope. I get that the Sabres did a very nice thing for Kyle Okposo, a longtime veteran, one of the nicest guys in league history. He's just a gem of a guy, and they wanted to do him a solid at his request. But he was the captain of a team that was still in the playoff hunt. He wanted out. The Sabres were were honored to let him out. They did him the favor. It wasn't like, this guy doesn't want to be here anymore, let's move him out. It was, yes, we will appease you. I think that is loser mentality. In as much as I respect Kyle Okposo, maybe even on his part. I mean, you're the captain of this team. You're building something here. You think you're telling the media, you're telling internally, the messaging is we're still trying to get into the playoffs, but we're going to unload our captain. I don't know. What was your thought on that, George?
Okay, we'll go back to the trade deadline. is this Kyle Oposo's last season? Because it seems like it is, right? It seems like this is it. And yes, Buffalo was 5-6 points out of the playoffs, but were they really in the playoff hunt? I guess kind of they were, but
they couldn't win 3 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, they really weren't. And if this guy's chasing a cup, he decided, I've got to get this thing. He hasn't been to the playoffs his last 8 years, right? Ever since he signed that free agency deal with Buffalo, dude did his time, right? I mean,
a prisoner.
He did his time. You should have seen the guy. He only played like 4 regular season games for the Panthers as they kind of got him geared up for this playoffs. I think he played game 2 against Tampa. That was his first playoff game, or maybe game 3. First playoff game since 2016 with the Islanders. Like a kid, like just smiling from ear to ear. He's like that every day. You go and look at the picture of the Panthers around the Prince of Wales trophy the other night. Right behind it, next to Bill Zito, the Florida general manager, is Kyle Oposo, just out of his mind, happy that he's got this opportunity. So loser mentality, I don't know. I understood it. Buffalo's like, yeah, are we? Yeah, I guess we kind of are, but go ahead. Because Detroit was still in it. There were still a lot of teams in it. Pittsburgh that made deals. I mean, Pittsburgh traded, a pretty good player, and they were still in the thick of things. He's great. I talk to him every day. His locker stall in Fort Lauderdale is right at the door, always there to say hello. He's really great. He's still got his Buffalo. He's still got his car with the Buffalo tags on it from Orchard Park. He's representing Buffalo down here. Great guy and a great addition. Florida got Vladimir Tarasenko, same kind of deal, would only go to Florida. St. Louis had to get rid of him, and not St. Louis, Ottawa. They were in a different position. But, Buffalo did him a solid. He wanted to chase the ring. And Florida had Joe Thornton 2 years ago chasing that ring. Last year it was Eric Stahl chasing that ring. Now you've got, even though he did win one in Carolina, last gasp at it for Oposo, and he has been very good for Florida. He's played more in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, and that's what the Panthers kind of whispered during the regular season. We're like, hey, why isn't Oposo? Don't worry. His time's coming. He knows it. We know it. His time's coming. It has.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I like him a lot as a human being. He opened up to me for one of my early big stories at The Athletic, and he trusted me to tell that story. And I'm happy for him. I just think it was a symptom of the Sabres dysfunction and it's maybe not even a Kyle Oposo thing, but the trade your captain when you are telling the world, or at least your messaging internally and externally, is we're still in this thing. We're gunning for the playoffs. And in many ways, and I think in retrospect, we look, and obviously Don Granato not making the playoffs, it was a playoffs or bust season, at least for him. And to move your captain, it's just something I'm conflicted about, and which is why I wanted to bring it up.
I don't disagree with you. I honestly don't. But from the outside looking in, I don't think anybody really thought that Buffalo was a serious contender. But we saw last year, hey, Florida was the number 8 seed and got in and made it all the way to the finals as the number 8. And, you never know what can happen in the playoffs. And I'll agree with you on that. But listen, Buffalo's continuing to move forward. They are an improving team. They did move on from their coach. I mean, they kind of, that wasn't a decision to move on from Granato, in the final week of the season. Now, that decision probably had been made. There'd been enough talk that it was probably going to happen. So I don't know.
What's been your experience with Sam Reinhart?
He's been fine. Sam Reinhart, ever since he's come to the Florida Panthers. He came in right after the COVID year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is his 3rd year with the Panthers, a free agent. Has there anybody ever had a free agent year better than Sam Reinhart in the NHL? I mean, seriously, 57 goals, continuing it in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in a couple weeks here. But no, he's been great to deal with. The Panthers love him. Paul Maurice's joke is that he's mean to little kids and animals and stuff, and a bad teammate. And he's late to meetings, So back off, guys. Back off. This guy's bad news. That's the running joke with Paul Maurice. But
well, those are, I think,
been great.
Those are, whether it's intended or not, or whether he's referencing this as such a deep cut, but that comes from some strange reporting out of Western New York regarding Sam Reinhart. He's a problem. Sure. He's a cancer. Sure. And obviously
he hasn't used any of that stuff. Yeah, right.
But it's what he's doing. I mean, he's like, yeah, thank God this guy wanted.
Well, he says Buffalo. It for everybody, including Brandon Montour, who you know.
Right.
Listen. Let's talk about Sam Reinhart. That was one of the things that we talked about when he got traded here, and we all knew the stories about Rhino, right, in Buffalo. He was miserable, and it had nothing to do with the city of Buffalo or Western New York or anything. He gets cranky when they lose. I mean, that is a fact. When the Panthers even lose the game in the regular season, he's not the guy you want to talk to. He gets cranky and he's terrible. I think just all the losing just wore on him. He comes here and, literally a sunny disposition, and he's enjoyed it. And that's one reason why I think that the Panthers have a pretty good chance of signing him to an extension, to a new contract. Maybe not. It might not be what all he wants money-wise or years-wise, but he knows the team is going to win. And he's seen the others. He's miserable. He could go get into a 7-year deal in San Jose, but does he want that? I don't think he does. I think he wants to play for a winner, and to do that, there's a little give and take.
If the Panthers do win the Cup this year, and say Sam Reinhart has a good series, a year after Jack Eichel wins it with Vegas, how do you think Sabres fans should feel about having those two together back-to-back, 1 and 2 picks, and then letting them go and achieve success elsewhere?
Let's throw in Ryan O'Reilly in the Conn Smythe also. Right. Not too far in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. No, it stinks. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm old enough to remember going to Buffalo and coming out that back door of the arena and having a line of people waiting for autographs. I mean, that team in the, back in the, whenever, 10 years ago, they were rock stars. And to see what it kind of evolved into, yeah, it sucks. It sucks when you lose great players like that, guys who were going to be the future, and they end up somewhere else. Yeah, I mean, you see it in all kinds. The Miami Marlins, we see that all the time. Oh, geez, look at this guy, look at that guy. They're just gone. They were supposed to be the future here, and now they're the future somewhere else.
Chase Claypool.
Yeah. I had a question in there regarding Reinhart, but what was it?
Well, maybe we continue on the thread of Brandon Montour, another player that the Sabres kind of gave away to Florida. Evan Rodriguez was a Sabre. He didn't go right to Florida from here. What have been your impressions of them, and maybe what, especially with Montour, what's allowed him to be such a good player in Florida that we didn't really get to see here? Yeah.
Montour's been really, really good. Just going back to that was during the COVID year of 2021 when Florida got him. He was a free agent, and it looked like he was going to leave the Panthers. That was just a rental deal. And then a day before free agency, he signed a 3-year deal and has stayed here. Now he's a free agent. Last year was a huge year for Brandon Montour. He was absolutely on fire. He got moved to the top of the Florida power play. And, his shot. I mean, his shot from the point is pretty deadly. This year he had the injury problems. He had the surgery following the Stanley Cup final, torn labrum, I guess. Missed the first 6 weeks of the season, and it took him a while to get going, but he's certainly gotten going. He's a terrific top 4 defenseman. I don't know, why or how it's turned around for him, but there was always talk that Brandon Montour was a real solid, a real talented guy. Sometimes it just takes defensemen a little longer to to figure things out, for the game to slow down for him. But Brandon Montour, it certainly has done that. He is he's legit. He's and he might be that's the talk around here. Can you keep both of them? Can you keep Reinhart and Montour? I don't think you can, especially when you've got Gus Forsling, who just signed an 8-year deal with Florida at $5.5 million. Do you give Montour more than that? I don't know. So we'll see how that works out. But he's all in on this right now.
3rd round pick.
Yeah, Evan Rodriguez. You guys know him. I mean, he's a very, very solid player. Good guy in the room. Everybody loves him, and he's found a real nice spot. He's up on the second line now with Bennett and Reinhart.
Can Tim name the fifth?
I'm sorry.
Okay, I think George might know this, but I'm going to quiz Tim. Can Tim name the 5th player on the Florida Panthers roster that was a former Sabre?
Off the top of my head, no, I can't. I don't want to drag down. I don't want to have too much dead air.
I don't even think I can remember.
Defenseman, played in Buffalo 16-17, and he's been at Florida since.
Oh, yeah. Draft day trade. He was traded from Florida to Buffalo for Mark Pysyk. Mark
Pysyk.
Dmitry Kulikov.
Oh, shit. No,
you forgot he played for the Panthers.
I think I couldn't. I was struggling. He hasn't done much. Yeah, I think I did forget he played for the Panthers.
He's been fine. Listen, he doesn't do much offensively. A lot of people thought his career was over, but Cooley's been good. He's been reborn here back with the Panthers. He's taken
10 shots throughout the entire postseason.
Yeah, that's not his game though.
I know it, but that's why I forget about him.
He's a terrific penalty killer. We thought when Montour and Ekblad came back in the lineup, the number one guy who was going to lose his job was Dmitry Kulikov. We're like, there's just no room for Cooley. He's like, yeah, whatever they want me. He's played them all.
I can't help but call him.
Loves him. He's one of their top penalty killers. They love him. He's playing with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. That's a pretty good third pairing for Florida.
You were saying, Jonah?
Yeah, all these years later, I still can't help but call him Dmitry Kalinin.
Similar player. Oh, now Kalinin had some offensive skill, and actually was better as a rookie and got worse as he went on because I think Lindy got in his head, and which Lindy can do to a player.
How's Lindy doing? Where's he at these days?
Hard at work calling season ticket holders.
Yeah, trying to get people to get seasons. That's how bad it is. It used to be they'd send Kim Pegula or Jack Eichel or Steve Ott or whoever the hell they had at the time around door to door to deliver your season tickets. Now they need the people to make sure that there's season tickets to hand out.
Right.
So they have them ringing your phone instead of ringing your doorbell.
He's down there at the combine with one of those spinning signs that says tickets here and the arrow pointing.
Timmy, can I ask you a question?
No.
Okay, that place we used to go to on Transit Road where he had a bottle of champagne, I think, underneath the counter. Do you remember this story?
Was it Brennan's?
Yeah, Brennan's. That's gone now, right? Brennan's is gone?
Yes, it's actually on like its third thing. It's about to reopen as a cigar bar.
Whatever happened to that bottle of champagne? Remember, he kept a bottle just for when the Sabres won the cup. I mean, did it get moved?
That's a great question. And
might be at Kohl's. Don't the Kohl's people own Brennan's? Didn't they?
Well, I don't know. Or I wonder if
or maybe he took it when he got fired. I don't know. He might have taken it with him. I don't know.
Maybe the person to ask is probably Brendan Begain.
I had a Brian Begain story yesterday. FloridaHockeyNow.com. Brian Begain made his grand return. What do you think of that?
I love it. Brian Begain, one of Western New York's favorite sons, who covered the Panthers from their inception until what, maybe 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, 08, 09,
for the Palm Beach Post. Also a golf writer down there at the Palm Beach Post. Comes back to the South Towns every year for about a month to visit his family. One of the all-time greats. In fact, he's the guy who brought me well, I think, yeah. I mean, he's the guy who sold Palm Beach Post sports editor Nick Michella on this writer up in Buffalo to come down and cover the Dolphins.
We all loved him.
Yeah. Speaking of the Bills and the Dolphins, well, let me ask you that. I'll ask you in this way, George. What's the vibe down there regarding the Dolphins? I see the trolls on social media clapping back at Bills fans. It's kind of sad, much like it used to be with Bills fans trying to clap back at Patriots fans. The Dolphins are good though. Good. They just can't get over on the Bills. But I guess in particular, Tua Tagovailoa, what would you think? What is the temperature on Tua down there these days?
It's a pretty split camp, and let's just mention that the Dolphins had everything on a silver platter for them last year, right? All they lose that stupid game to the Tennessee Titans at home, and everything just spirals out of control. I mean, they had the AFC East wrapped up, and they don't have to go freeze in Kansas City. But the Tua, everything seems kind of split. I mean, if you say anything bad against Tua, you're an enemy of the state. Tua and on, I think they're calling it. But he's got the whole contract thing. I guess he spoke the other day, and he's not happy that everybody else is getting paid and he's not. Listen, last year was his first full season playing. Right, he went and he learned kickboxing or something. What did he learn? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was a martial arts, and the purpose
it's a martial art
to learn how to fall properly.
I know it. My cousin's big into it. I'll think of it in a second.
Muay Thai.
It was one of the common.
It's a form of judo, because that's where.
He learned how to roll because of the concussions and all that. He had a great year last year. I think he was great. But you look at all the weapons Miami had, they should have been great offensively last year, and especially with you got the mind of Mike McDaniel. So you've got to pay the guy. I mean, what else do you do? I guess I don't know what they're going to do, but that is the talk. Everybody's pay the guy or don't, or it's all Tua all the time, baby.
What's the story with his weight loss? Tyreek Hill thinks he's on Ozempic.
What do you say? I miss chubby Tua, something like that. Yeah, he does look thin. I saw the picture. I mean, I don't go out to Dolphin camp or anything like that, so I don't, I haven't seen him, but just seeing pictures and things. Yeah, he does look like he's lost some weight. Is it going to make him? I don't know. I don't know. Every year it's something different. Last year it was judo, and this year it's Ozempic.
Hey, whatever it takes to get you over the hump.
Hey, those Sundays in September are hot at Hard Rock Stadium. You gotta be ready for it.
I'm curious about the Dolphins this year. They've had some big losses on defense in particular, and of course the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. If he can stay healthy, I think the Jets could maybe leapfrog him a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah,
I still think the Bills are the best team in the AFC.
People say that
in the AFC East, I should say.
Yeah, they probably are until somebody beats them, right? It's not the Patriots. It's not the Jets. I mean, come on. We say that the Jets. They're the Jets. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts still have more AFC East championships than the Jets do. So, and how long have they been out of the AFC East, right? Yeah, it's the Dolphins and the Bills, and the Jets will be right there. I don't know. Are they better? They might be. I mean, they were at the end of last year. I don't think they were all season, but they were when it counted. Miami did lose some guys. They lost some edge rushers, but they replaced guys. I think they feel pretty good about the team that they've got. They still think that they're a team that the window is still open for them. But we'll just have to see. And again, offensively, I mean, this team's pretty stacked. I mean, you've got Odell Beckham as your number 3. Listen, he's not Odell Beckham of 5 years ago, but he's still pretty good. Tua, they might do some damage. We'll see.
Do we think Jordan Poyer is going to have a positive or above a neutral effect on the Dolphins defense, and especially in those games against the Bills? It seems like he might have some state secrets he can share.
I said on Alan Pouper's podcast, I don't know, a month or two ago, Jordan Poyer has fallen way off. I mean, the ball production type stats were way down, non-existent. He had a lot of zeros in his stat columns. You used to see forced fumbles and recoveries and interceptions and sacks and all those things. And those were all way down on a really good defense. The accumulation of injuries. And what I said on Alan asked me what I thought about it. And I said that the Dolphins are paying $1 million for Jordan Poyer's balls, because this guy is one of the biggest gamers. The way he battles, all the things that he can bring to a defense from a mentality standpoint, the Bills just didn't have room for that luxury anymore. You just hope, all right, we hope that he's rubbed off enough on our players down here, and they've learned from him here in Orchard Park. Jordan, we can't afford to keep everybody, and but yeah. Anyway, that's my take on him. I don't know, George. How do you think he plugs into that defense?
I don't know, because they are changing up some things defensively. They've got a new coordinator after they had the divorce last year. We'll see. I mean, listen, there are some plugs that they had. They lost some pretty good guys off this defense. You can't pay everybody, and they had to make some tough decisions. Some guys got paid elsewhere. It'll be interesting to see how Miami does on that side of the ball. We know they're loaded on the one side. Are they good enough to keep the pace defensively? I mean, I think we'll find out, but I don't think they're all that deep, right? I think Miami is going to be one of those teams when we start doing cut downs. The Dolphins are going to be looking at that waiver wire pretty closely.
Yeah, Christian Wilkins, a huge loss, him signing with the Raiders. I just wanted to bring up Poyer's stats here just because I didn't want to just be totally pulling them out. But yeah, no interceptions, no pass. Wait, am I looking at that right? No, 4 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble, 1 sack. And usually you see a lot of those numbers. He had 8 pass breakups and 9 the year before that. He went from 9 interceptions previous 2 years combined down to 0. Just that's not to say he still brings it. He still brings it. It's just the performance numbers have plummeted.
And maybe maybe the change of scenery. Who knows? That happens sometimes. Not as much in football as it does in other sports, but
he gives fiery pregame speeches. Oftentimes, mic'd up in Buffalo.
He'll fill your notebook. He'll fill the reporter's notebook. He's a great quote. He resents the press. Like you'll have to deal with him kind of insulting you at the very beginning of an interview. But you just got to take it. And then once he gets it out of his system, then he'll answer your questions. But yeah, he's one of those guys that pretty much thinks every question's ridiculous, but then he answers it.
Okay. Well, good. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll bet. George, you're a big Cleveland sports honk. You love your Guardians. You're a Browns guy too, yeah? Yeah, that's right. I just want to make sure I remembered that right. I've never asked you about this. How do you handle Deshaun Watson as your team's quarterback?
It was tough the first year, right? I still think that they massively overpaid. I don't think I'm alone in that. But I think last year, it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, he had the one good game against Baltimore and then doesn't play again. I mean, he hasn't been medically cleared, I don't think, to throw yet. I mean, we're on year 3 of this? 4? I don't know. Whatever.
How did you rationalize the off the field stuff? Even if he were to come back and be great, would you have had trouble with that?
Yeah. I think it's with all that stuff when it comes out, it's not pretty stuff. I mean, and then you pay what you paid to do it, and now you look at the Houston Texans and how good they've been, how much that's helped them. They got their quarterback, no problem. They're good. I don't know, but listen, it's a fun team in Cleveland.
Yay, sports. They always give us things to muddle up our psychology as to what we're supposed to root for. And,
when when they made that deal, they were like, "This is the guy we need. He can make all the throws. What he did in Houston, but we haven't seen that in so long." No. And then he had 2 years off in Houston because I mean, he might be all rusty. I don't know.
The running part of his game might just be gone.
It might be. I mean, we haven't seen enough of it. I don't know. I mean, how many games did he play last year? 4, 5? Because remember, he got hurt, missed a game or two, then came back, then got hurt. Now it's really hurt.
Well, I thought it was hilarious that Joe Flacco joined the team. 6 games, by the way. The Browns went 5-1 in Watson's 6 games.
Right.
The defense is elite.
He was phenomenal in that second half of that Baltimore game was great.
But I thought it was hilarious that Joe Flacco did what he did because it just proved that they don't need Deshaun Watson. They have so many things going well for them otherwise that a guy like Joe Flacco can step in and pilot the plane into the postseason. Now, of course, they weren't going to win the Super Bowl, but I just got a chuckle out of that. Everything that the Browns have put themselves through for Deshaun Watson, and they didn't necessarily need him.
Right, and Flacco was just terrific. I mean, what a pickup! Sitting on the couch in New Jersey or whatever, and then he catches a Delta flight to Hopkins, and the rest is history. But that was a heck of a run for Cleveland last year. It was fun. It was fun watching Flacco do what he did. And yeah, it was a good time. I didn't think that they would self-destruct the way they did in Houston. But hey, that's the way she goes.
George, anything else you want to get to before we let you go? Anything you want to plug?
How are the Bisons doing?
I have no idea.
I think they're in second place. Last I looked, they were. And they're going to be playing as the Oat Milkers on Tuesday.
Okay, I was trying to figure. I saw something about the Oat Milkers, and I was like, I couldn't figure out what team that was. I actually thought it was the Akron. I was like, what does that? Because I was thinking, Quaker Oats and Akron.
It goes around. They're the Oat Milkers. Yeah, they're the Oat Milkers next week. I'm still figuring this out myself, but I guess this Oat Milkers thing is across the International League or minor league baseball. So different teams have uniform.
I saw a team wearing it. And I was like, okay. So what is? I'll look it up.
Yeah. How do you milk an oat anyway?
They have nipples.
I'm not gonna say the line. I like almond milk. How do you milk an almond? I don't know.
Well, George, this has been fun.
How's the Swanee house?
I hadn't been in a long time because I don't cover hockey as much anymore. It's not on my route, and the Buffalo News, they don't print at the Buffalo News anymore. So all the people, the pressmen and the late night editing staff that used to work and go into the Swanee house, they don't work there anymore. So it's kind of it's no longer a Buffalo News joint, but I've been there twice in the last maybe month and a half for 2 different reasons, once at night, once during the day. And it's exactly the same.
That we feel good. Good. I'm glad.
I think it is the longest continually open bar in Buffalo history, or in Buffalo.
Right.
Like Ulrich's, I think, is older, but it has been closed a couple of times over the years. Right. The Swanee house never closed, I think.
It's my kind of joint. Hopefully I see you guys this summer. Maybe if I can swing up.
Yeah. Well, safe travels. Hopefully, if the cup is clinched in Edmonton, maybe you'll be there. Maybe it's better not to go. Maybe it's better to be back in South Florida where they can,
I'll wait for it.
The rivalry. They'll be back
Right.
where would the parade go? They just go down Las Olas?
The joke is, around Sawgrass Mills Mall, you know that very well, the old Sawgrass. And you can do the duck boats and the retainer ponds. I think down Fort Lauderdale Beach, up Las Olas. You got to think Miami will want to get in on this and have something, just so they can say they did. But I think if they were going to do something, it'd be Fort Lauderdale Beach up to Las Olas with the players jumping out at the elbow room.
There you go.
For an impromptu, run, but that would be the plan.
Well, George, thanks for doing this. I urge everyone to follow him on Twitter at George Richards, which is kind of impressive because George Richards, I'm sure there are a lot of George Richardses out there.
Yeah.
And you got it. I could not get at Tim Graham. That was already taken. Some guy in Australia had it. So I'm glad to see you are at George Richards and maintaining that. Florida Hockey Now is the website where you can get caught up on all of the Panthers coverage. So many former Sabres, so many great storylines, and one of the more entertaining teams. I think this is the most entertaining matchup of each team out of each conference. I think Edmonton is the most entertaining team coming out of the West, and Florida is the most entertaining team coming out of the East. And here they are about to play each other for the Stanley Cup. So follow him at NHL.com, Florida Hockey Now, all that good stuff. George, thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Timmy. Appreciate you, bud.
And thanks to everybody out there for watching and listening. And please subscribe. Subscribe to Florida Hockey Now, number one. But make sure to subscribe to Tim Graham and Friends here on YouTube and on your podcast platform of choice. Until next time.
CTBK gives executives and owners of mid-market businesses unparalleled confidence and clarity so you can focus on strategic objectives and organizational success. Their multidisciplinary advisors, accountants, and team members have a wealth of experience and are all available and responsive to each client to ensure the most effective advice, actions, and outcomes no matter the situation or complexity level. That experience base and one-team approach, combined with integrated and efficient way of operating, enable them to be truly proactive partners, doing the best thing for their client every time. Visit ctbk.com or call 716-630-2400 to learn how CTBK can work for you.